Hey guys, V. Rigoni, Max, high performance real estate entrepreneur. So, have you smashed the like button? Well, probably not yet, but would you do it? And more importantly, let's subscribe to the channel and let's hit the bell so you get the notifications, right? So we're going to be talking today. We're going to be talking more on a theme of time is money and what does that really mean? And we're going to kind of like try to see if you understand that time is fleeting. Time goes by, and I know you're young. You're 25, you're 28, you're 35, nothing but time. But go home and look at your parents and look and see how time is working on them, because that's really the bottom line. In fact, time is more important than money. But in order to achieve that, you've got to achieve the fact that the goal has to be, how do I buy my time back? Right? That's what, again, I'm a big believer in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, in that book. Because in that book, he talks about the quadrants, right, of time and money. Right? If you're sitting there and you're at your job every day and you're getting paid for just, you're giving your time and you're getting paid for that time. You're selling your time. Everybody is selling their time. Everybody except those people that have achieved financial success. Otherwise, your time is being sold. Right now, if you're a clerk at a retail store, you're not getting paid a lot because you don't have the skill level that will require you to get paid a lot of money. Right? You're going to come in. What do you got to learn? You got to learn how to scan a tag. I mean, people don't even know how to count change back anymore. It's whatever the computer tells them to give back. And so they get paid the least amount for that time. So what your parents told you to do was what their parents told them to do. Go to college so that your time becomes more valuable. Now, they weren't really, spelling that out in that way. They spell it out as, quote unquote, get a good job. A job that requires at least a minimum of a college education, because then therefore that usually will give you a little bit more money than a blue collar job to start with. And you will typically have a higher level of increase over your lifetime. Sounds like middle class shit to me, doesn't it? My father saw through this shit years ago. I remember him telling me, you want to go to college, that's fine. But don't let college get in the way of you getting rich and wealthy. He went to university. I've said this before. He went to 3 years at Loyola. Then he went on to medical school, didn't like it. Then he went on to law school, didn't like it. And then he went to become an entrepreneur. And in the beginning, back then in the 60s, in the late 50s and 60s, even if you owned your own buildings and you were your own janitor to start with, because back then they called them janitors, people who would take care of the garbage. He was, in some respect, not happy for people to know that he was a janitor. In fact, in the very beginning, after he left college, he was working as a janitor for my grandfather, who owned multiple buildings. Because back then, the buildings needed more maintenance. You got to, back then they would take the garbage down for the tenants. There was all kinds of, even in the early 60s, they were still shoveling coal in some of these buildings. Not a lot, but there were still. If you ever look at the side of some of these old apartment buildings, you'll see like a metal hatch on the side there where they used to bring the coal in. And they would try to shoot it in directly in, but sometimes they couldn't. And then once it went into the storage chute, it had to be put into the furnaces. So he was doing this kind of stuff in the 50s and 60s. So that's why he went to college. It was so hard to work on a building back then. And since he was the de facto janitor of my grandfather from the time he was probably 15 years old, you tend to not like it. But then he saw what was going on. He saw what he would have to do to be a doctor. He saw the bullshit about being a lawyer. Unless you are so in love with the law, most people have to stay away from it. And that's what a lawyer would tell you, because it's just, you go to any bar, you go to any more upscaled bar in your community, usually it's attached to a restaurant. You'll see 4 or 5 lawyers sitting there at 5:30, 6 o'clock, pounding them down. Now, again, you want to be a lawyer? Good luck with that. Most lawyers I can't stand. Most lawyers want to kill deals. Most lawyers are so damn stupid, it's ridiculous. There are some great ones, I'm not saying that. Let me get off this thing about lawyers because I can go down that rabbit hole real fast. All right, doctors, same thing. But again, unless you're talking about being a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, or you love engineering, fine. Go to college, get that degree, but understand your time is only worth so much money to that employer. I mean, I even talking to a doctor recently. And all these doctors now, or most of them, they don't even own their own practice anymore. They're just high-paid employees. It used to be that if you were a physician, you had a practice. And then you affiliated with a local hospital or two, and that's where you had your ability to go and practice in the hospital. Now they own your ass. They took these away. You can't afford, due to the insurance, to the fact that they won't let you affiliate if you're totally independent. So you have to become an employee of the hospital in most cases, the hospital system. It's the matrix again, baby. It's the matrix of healthcare. These doctors, they used to be able to have write-offs. They used to be able to have a building and depreciate that building. They used to be able to buy equipment, depreciate that building, do capital expenditures, things like that. And then they would sell their practice at the end for $2, $3, $4 million, whatever it was worth. Now, go talk to a doctor and see what their financial life looks like. Yes, in the pinnacle of most of them, they can get up to $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 after many years of being a physician. But do you realize what the taxes they're paying? They are maxing out on the taxation. Now, that's ridiculous. They have no depreciation to go against their income. They got nothing. They're a W-2 worker. So even though that they're their highest level of they're achieving tremendous success, and yes, in the end, they should be financially okay, but nowhere near what was happening 20 years ago for physicians. So if you're thinking about becoming a doctor, fine, but understand it's a different world. It is a world now of 401ks. So then you put your money in there so you can reduce your income by that deposit into the 401k, so you adjust your income down. But all of a sudden then, what do? You got to pay those taxes later on when you go to take the money out to live on. So you just have to understand, all right? Because, see, there is no 1031 exchange in a 401k, all right? If it is not a Roth 401k. It is a traditional 401k, which most doctors would because they'd make too much money to really consciously understand whether they should put money in a Roth. My point is that they have no way to ever defer the taxes other than initially. You see, when you buy an apartment building, when you buy a building, if a doctor buys a building for his practice, and then he writes that building off and he depreciates that building, and then he wants to sell that building, he doesn't have to pay those taxes back if he does a 1031 exchange, maybe to something in Florida, Arizona, wherever he wants to retire. Then he takes that building, he sells that building, and he goes, and what does he do with that? He goes and he takes that practice and he rolls that money over to another building. He does a 1031 exchange, pays no taxes on it. Now he sits there with an apartment building paying him rent. And he can hire a management company that'll take care of it for him. So there was that part of their retirement. Then there was just the fact that, they would sell their practice for X amount of dollars. See, eye doctors are going through this right now. They're rolling up eye doctors. They're paying the doctors the eye doctors that are out there, they're independent. They're rolling them up. These big companies like Goldman Sachs and all these other companies are rolling these people up. They're paying them multiple valuations because they want to get that business totally under control. And who are they putting in there for the eye doctors after? Employees. Highly paid, but no way to prosper other than a 401k. So time is money, but it's how you use your time to make the money. And then how the money buys your time back to you. Now you might say, well, I'm not going to be an optometrist and I'm not going to be, a physician. I get it. But if it doesn't work for them, how in the hell is it going to work for you? Because you don't make anywhere near that kind of money. And your only alternative is a 401k. They've tied up your money into a 401k plan so you can't take it out. And they've told you to put as much money as you can into that plan that you can afford. There's a limit. But it'll suck up all of your available funds. Most people do not have savings other than the 3 to 6 months, if they even have that. Most people have no savings, by the way. Most people live paycheck to paycheck. But the people who do are more conscientious and have savings. They don't have typically more than $10 or $15 or $20,000 in their savings in case they lose their what? Their job. Isn't that great? You got to have savings in order not, because in case you lose your freaking job. That's how financially safe you are. But your parents told you go get a job. Now, I tell you have a job, but unlike your parents, I want you to use that job to get rich and then get wealthy. So you can quit that damn job and then live off all the money that you've done by creating assets. Remember, how do the wealthy people think about money and time? They use their money to buy income-producing assets that will create more income, and the valuation of the assets will rise. What do you use money for? To put in a 401k so somebody else can get rich. All the people that manage that 401k, from all the big institutions that run it, the mutual funds that are in there, all those managers, all that, they're all getting wealthy off your money. You're not. And what do they tell you to expect? Oh, you should expect an 8% return. Well, congratulations. See what 8% does for you over the long term. I mean, this is the bottom line. I always say, I was told this years ago, that when an insurance company invests their money, they're expecting at least a 20% return. Well, what about you? What are you expecting? Well, you don't even know when you put your money in a 401k. You are just throwing away the time value of your money. That's really the bottom line, because if you tie up all your money into a retirement account, like a 401k plan, how do you have money for a down payment to buy, I don't know, maybe a freaking Subway? It could be a successful franchise. Doesn't have to be McDonald's. When I was growing up as a kid, they basically said in the 70s and 80s that if you bought a McDonald's franchise, which wasn't cheap at the time, especially later on, earlier it was. There was a lot of people got in under the wire when Ray Kroc first started. He didn't realize that he was in the real estate business. He thought he was in the hamburger and shake business. But once they got rolling, it pretty much was going to cost you close to $500,000 to $1 million to get into a McDonald's. But it was expected that investment would make you a millionaire. Okay, remember, because the money you invested didn't have to be all cash, but then McDonald's was expected to make you a millionaire within a few years. But there are other investments. You don't have to be a McDonald's. You can be a Subway. You can be any one of these sandwich shops, things like that. They will make you money if you run them right. But if you have no money to invest and no extra time, now that is kind of a misnomer, right? When I say extra time, because you're only putting 40 hours in at your job. And if you're working from home, let's not kid each other, you're not even doing that. Okay? Stats are starting to show it. They are just starting to show it. That you could be running a side business. You could be running a laundromat. You could buy a laundromat. Look on the websites, they're there. Right? But you know what? Either you're too lazy, or you have too much fear, or you don't think you have enough money, or you're listening to other people. All that is bullshit. Throw it in the garbage. Start thinking right. If you can't think right, you can't live right, you can't grow right. So that's really what I'm trying to tell you. See, they've locked you up into the financial matrix. Now, we run my son now owns a financial services company. We get it. People need help when they have to roll over their 401ks so they can get their money into a traditional IRA. They can then move that money into a self-directed IRA. And through that self-directed IRA, they can invest in things like real estate. There's some limitations. There'd be a real estate syndication. There's some things, but at least they can get the money working for them, and they can have some of the benefits. I mean, why do you think they call it a traditional IRA? Or a traditional because these people that run these things, the only thing they can offer you are traditional investments. If you can free up some money, maybe don't put, again, you get the advice from where you want. I'm telling you this is all about what I do, what I would do. But if I were you, would I put all my money in a 401k plan? No, I would put some money. What money would I put in a 401k plan? Well, duh. Let's not be stupid. It's called the match. It's the employer contribution. It's the 3% they're going to give you, or the 2.5%, or the 4.5%, or the 4%. If you put in the first 3 or 4% of your income, they will do it. I get it. It's free money. Let's not be dumb. Outside of that, then you should be looking at how can I make money from the money I'm generating, the savings. It'll be my seed money, because that is the only time you will hear me talk about saving money, is when you're putting money aside to be able to accumulate some money so you can go buy the first business. You can go buy the first piece of real estate. You can buy that first apartment building. You can buy that first single family home. Whatever the hell it is, you can start thinking like the wealthy do. Buy assets, income producing assets. Don't be buying snowmobiles. Don't be buying ATVs. Don't be buying boats. Don't be buying whatever, campers. That's all shit. When you own that stuff, own it through the fact that the money that is buying those toys, you're not working for. If you got to go to work 9 to 5, you want to go work for an ATV, something that's going down in value, something that's probably going to hurt you anyways. I have a good friend. All right, he hit a tree with an ATV. They had to hold him upside down and do surgery on him. He almost freaking died. Well, that's up to you. You do what you want to do. All right, I'm just saying. Again, I'm not saying have fear. Go do what you want to do. But in any case, I digress, and I do that a lot. But that's just the way I work. Now, what you want to do with that money is you want to put that money aside so you can accumulate enough money so you can go do something with your money, something real. Start small at times, but start now. Think big. You have to think big. You have to think big with dreams. See, all this stuff is interrelated. I can go on and on and on. And people say, well, you're in the wrong order. I don't give a shit. It don't matter. Where are you at? Because what I'm saying right now might hit a half a dozen people out there that are exactly at this place that need this. And if I'm speaking to you, then I succeeded at what I wanted to do. And what I want to do is share with you what I've gone through. It's like perseverance. You've got to have perseverance. People will say to me, Vic, what is the one thing that's caused you to have the success you have? And I'm no Bill Gates. I'm no Steve Jobs. Well, he's dead. But, it's perseverance. I've had to take so much shit. I've made so many shitty decisions. I've had to put up with crap. I know, it all comes down to crap and shit, right? Well, that's the part of life that's not fun, right? All right? But you persevere. You don't let it stop you. If you come up against something that is a challenge, something that's difficult, figure it out. Now, I get it. You might have a moment of emotion, but pull back from that emotion. Let the blood run to your brain and figure it out. Because if you do, what will happen is that then you'll figure out a way to get around it. If the door is closed, go out the window. If the window is closed, get up in the attic and bust out through the ceiling. It reminded me back when New Orleans flooded. You think people in the beginning didn't go out the door? You think then when the water was rising that some didn't go out the window? And then in the end, they had busted through their roofs and stood on their roofs. They figured it out. Why? Because it was life and death. And they weren't going to let something like rising water stop them from being able to survive. Now, some people are stupid enough to think it'll never happen. I don't know, and they'll still die. All right? I mean, you can't overcome stupid. I get it. But the bottom line is that if you can persevere, if you can first get in a direction, try to succeed. If you don't succeed in the beginning, don't let that stop you. Just learn from what happened. Now, we don't like you to fail in any way. So if you watch channels like this and other channels that will show you how to do it, I'm not talking motivational bullshit. I'm talking about how to, and this is what you need to do. And if you do this, you will succeed. But what I have found is that most people do not get caught up in the how-to. They get caught up in not starting, not understanding that it all starts with time and money. They would much rather spend the next 40 years of their life putting in 40 hours a week, working 50 weeks a year or more, doing that for 40 years. And that's success? That's ridiculous. That's insane. What you do to make money should just be a footnote. It should come easy. Owning apartment buildings should come easy. Owning businesses should come easy. We no longer look at buying a single restaurant when we go to buy a restaurant. We are typically always looking at 2 or 3. And how do we close on 2 or 3 restaurants at once? I mean, our goal right now is to try to close on 3 restaurants by the end of the year. We got 60 days to do our due diligence on 3 restaurants. We've identified them. We're working with LOIs. We are moving forward. Do you think that happens because we were sitting there watching football all weekend? Now, where would you rather be? Would you rather be here on a Monday morning when I'm recording this and working on 3 LOIs, letters of intent, that all demand closings before the first of the year? Why do we demand closings before the first year? Because we had other properties that fell through, other deals, and we don't want to pay taxes next year. And by buying these assets, not only do they increase our income, not only do they increase our worth, they also save us on a shitload of taxes. All legal, all appropriate, all audible, and that's what you do. Because you got to put your, they say, put your actions where your mouth is. That's what we do. But we take action. We don't sit around and just talk about it. Yes, there's times when we have to figure out, we have to take our dreams, we have to bring them down to our goals. We then have to figure out what is our action plan, and then we have to execute. And we don't wait around to do it. See, most people, they're just where you're at right now. Yes, they understand this thing called time and money. They've even read the book by Robert Kiyosaki or Think and Grow Rich or a dozen other books. And then they've read some motivational books. But what is stopping them? Fear. Fear of what other people might think of you. Why do you care about what other people? I don't give a shit what you think about me. You can think I'm the greatest guy in the world. That's great. I don't care. You can think I'm the worst person in the world. That's great. I don't care. I can't control that. That's just the way life works. All right? Just do things that are legal, moral, and ethical. And that's all you got to understand. And then whatever comes from that, that's not on you. The people who sit on the internet and they say, oh, look at this guy. He looks too old. What the hell can he tell me? Well, that's your problem. Because wisdom, as Achilles said, it comes from memory. That's right, memory, baby. All these guys out there that are now starting to say, oh, this reminds them of the 1980s. Shit, I was telling you that a year and a half ago. I was telling you that a year and a half ago. And now they're all starting to come up. And it's not because they were there, because most of these gurus are not old enough to be able to remember it. They're just starting to hear other people say it, so then they're repeating it themselves. Remember all the people that told you that they were going to be planning on cutting interest rates in the fourth quarter of this year. Remember all that bullshit you heard out there? It was no different than the bullshit that you heard from the Federal Reserve when in 2021 they were telling you that by 2022 inflation would be over and that by the summer of 2022 inflation would be at 2%. You think that wasn't bullshit? It's called transitory inflation. And the Federal Reserve was pushing it as hard as the White House. Oh, I guess they changed their mind, came 2022. My point is, you got to look at things. You got to say to yourself, is this the right thing for me? Pick a vehicle. Understand how you're going to get rich. Start to apply the principles. There are business success principles. You want to read books on success? Go read the books from Drucker. They're not motivational. They're how-to. That's just, Tillman Fertitta. He just wrote a book on how-to. I have not even read the book yet, but I can tell you by knowing this man, knowing the success he had in the restaurant business. He owns more restaurants individually than any other person in the world. He owns casinos. He owns, I think it's the Houston Rockets. Do you think what he's got to say is worth listening to? Go buy his damn book and read it. It's all about business, all about getting successful. It's just not all about what I've got to say. But I've been there. I've done it. I've succeeded. I have failed. I've succeeded. I've been worth millions of dollars more than once. And then get your shit together and get on with it. And understand that your time is valued based upon your skill level. So raise that up and value it from an entrepreneurial basis. But in order to do that, you've got to start out with most likely a decent job, whatever that job is, save enough on the side, start to put together a war chest, and then when you've got some dollars, maybe you invite somebody else into your deal. You go find something that's worth investing in. You invest the money. You get the tax benefits. You get the cash flow, hopefully positive. It better be positive from day one, with appreciation on the underlying value of the asset and the real estate, if it's the real estate's being included, and then grow this and do it over and over again. It will get easier. It will get easier and easier and easier. And if you say to me, Vic, yeah, but you can't do that right now with 8% interest rates. That's full of shit. We're just putting a deal together. It's over a $2 million deal, and we're putting it together where the seller's going to hold. Okay, the seller is holding what? $1.2 million on one deal, and the seller is going to hold on another deal $1.5 million for 10 years. We've got him holding the paper for 10 years, and he's happy to do that. Why? Because he understands taxation. He's put enough money in his pocket. He doesn't need the money. He understands that we are significant in the business in which we're in. Now, you might say, well, then people don't think I'm significant. They don't think I have the reputation. Well, if you don't do the small deal, how are you going to get to the bigger deal, the medium deal, and the bigger deal? And I'm not saying $2 million is a big deal. Like I said to my son, the day is going to come where we'll be doing a $20 million deal and a $200 million deal. But most people can't even get to the $20,000 deal, let alone the $200,000 deal, to go to the $2 million deal, and on and on and on. That's how this shit rolls. Sometimes you do. When I say start now, that doesn't mean you're starting big. You think big, and you put it together, and you move forward. But if you never take the action in the beginning because you don't value your time very high, and the reason you don't value your time very high, because you got no freaking ego. No ego. Become egocentric. Think of yourself. Love yourself more than you love anybody else to begin with. Because if you don't love yourself, nothing else is going to happen. Now, does that mean you're supposed to become a narcissist? No. You can always take anything too far. But become egocentric enough that you can take full responsibility of what you do and don't do. And don't be blaming other people for the shit you haven't done or the shit you did. It's on you. It's not on anybody else. It's on you. And if you do this and you move in this direction, you're going to find that life is going to turn for you. And it's going to turn for the better. Are you still going to have some ups and downs? Absolutely. Nothing comes easy. Do you think becoming a successful entrepreneur is easy? It's easy to become a person that is a person that just is self-employed, who owns a small business and runs it like it's his own job. Yeah, that's easy peasy. It doesn't take much. Just enough ego to think you can actually make it by doing enough, that you have enough appreciation of whatever that skill is. If you're a plumber, electrician, usually it's in the trades. Or even if you're an accountant and you open up your own accounting practice or financial advisor. Yes, doesn't take a whole lot. But let's take it to the next level, baby. Let's start rolling this shit up. Let's start buying more businesses, roll them in. Let's start having so that you have employees. By the end of this year, we will be close to 200 employees. We're over 100, I think 120 now. 3 years ago, we had 5. That's right, 5. And people all say, well, why do I want to have all these employees? Well, because that's how you get rich. Unless you're going to go out there and develop the next major software deal, and you could do it in your garage, with a buddy, and you can call it Microsoft. If you can do that, good luck for you. You don't need a lot of employees. You don't need a lot of grief. But let's get on with it. Let's think big. Let's start now. Take the action to start now, and then let's grow fast. Because it's in the growing fast where you get to buy your time back. It's not in the starting now, because that's just going to take more time. But it will go to growing it back. You will get to get your time back by growing bigger and growing fast. Let's get out there. Let's make it happen. Let's think big. Let's start now. Take the freaking action so we can grow fast. Talk to you soon. Ive Succeeded, Max, high performance real estate entrepreneur. And let's hit the like button, because if you didn't like it in the beginning and you're still watching it now, what the hell? It doesn't cost you a dime. Hit the like button and let's get on to subscribing to the channel. Talk to you soon. Take some action.